So today I want to have a look at this book here. This is a special item that I found at an antique store. So I had gone into the store looking for furniture, and this is the only thing that I came out with. I've never seen one of these before. I'm not really sure how special it is, but it looks pretty cool and I thought it would make a great video. So this here is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. This is a commemorative pop-up version of the story. The story is by L. Frank Baum, and the art in this book is by Robert Sabuda. Okay, so we've got it wrapped in plastic, and going to try to be gentle with removing it. Okay, so here you can see on the side The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and let's see if there's anything else. On the back there's some information. It says Robert Sabuda, if I'm pronouncing that right, has created a resplendent pop-up version of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the original publication. This glorious edition is told in a shorter version of L. Frank Baum's original text, with artwork in the style of W. W. Denslow, with sparkling touches of colored foil and Emerald City eyeglasses. This classic tale is certain to find an honored place on the family bookshelf. Okay, we see a little illustration of the witch here. And the dedication down here, it says, for Robin Corey, whose creative insight and sense of humor make publishing so much fun. Okay, so let's have a look. Okay, so I'll show it to you. We have the main characters on the front, excluding the witch. We've got Dorothy here. She's sitting in the O. We've got the Cowardly Lion. We've got Toto down here. We've got the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. Okay, so let's have a look inside. Alright, so open it very gently. Okay, there's the first pop-up page, and that looks like the twister. So, see if you can see all of the other things here. We see the twister coming out from the top, and you see their house right there in the middle popping up, and they're on the farm. And let's see if I can read this upside down. You've got Dorothy here, and we've got Auntie Em, I guess, here inside the house. Dorothy and Toto. And it says up here, Dorothy lived in the midst of the great Kansas prairies with Uncle Henry, who was a farmer, and Aunt Em, who was the farmer's wife. So there they are there in the house. And this opens up as well. You can see that. Okay. So it says the house was small. No garret at all, and no cellar except a small hole dug in the ground called a cyclone cellar, where the family could go in case one of those great whirlwinds arose. Uncle Henry sat upon the doorstep and looked anxiously at the sky. Dorothy stood in the door with Toto in her arms. Aunt Em was washing the dishes. Suddenly, Uncle Henry stood up. "There's a cyclone coming," he called. Aunt Em dropped her work. "Quick, Dorothy," she screamed. "Run for the cellar." Toto jumped out of Dorothy's arms and hid under the bed. Aunt Em threw open the trap door and climbed down into the cellar. Dorothy caught Toto and started to follow her aunt, but the house shook so hard she lost her footing. See, I think I need to turn it around here to read it. The house whirled around and rose slowly through the air. Dorothy sat quite still on the floor and waited to see what would happen. Hour after hour passed away, and slowly Dorothy got over her fright. At last she crawled over the swaying floor to her bed and lay down upon it. In spite of the swaying of the house and the wailing of the wind, Dorothy soon closed her eyes and fell fast asleep. She was awakened by a shock. The house was not moving, nor was it dark, for bright sunshine came in at the window. She sprang from her bed and, with Toto at her heels, ran and opened the door. Okay, here we have the house. We've got Dorothy's house and lots of different looking trees, colorful flowers, and here we see the yellow brick road. So we see Dorothy steps out of her house there when it opens up. The pop-up here, it says, "The cyclone had set the house down in a country of marvelous beauty." Got the pop up here. We can see some slippers here. And so we've got a pop up here. So this looks like the Good Witch. See that there. And here it says, while Dorothy stood looking eagerly at the strange and beautiful sights, she noticed coming toward her a group of the queerest people she had ever seen. They were not as big as the grown folk she had always been used to, but neither were they very small. 3 were men and 1 a woman, and all were oddly dressed. The little old woman walked up to Dorothy and said in a sweet voice, "You are welcome, most noble sorceress, to the land of the Munchkins. We are so grateful to you for having killed the wicked witch of the East and for setting our people free from bondage." Dorothy looked and gave a little cry of fright. There indeed, just under the corner of the house, 2 feet were sticking out, shod in silver shoes with pointed toes. But who was she? Dorothy asked. "She was the Wicked Witch of the East," answered the woman. "She has held all the Munchkins in bondage for many years." "Who are the Munchkins?" inquired Dorothy. "They are the people who live in this land of the East, where the Wicked Witch ruled. I am their friend. When they saw the Witch of the East was dead, the Munchkins sent a swift messenger to me. I am the Witch of the North." "But I thought all witches were wicked," said the girl. "Oh no, that is a great mistake, for I am one myself. Those who dwelt in the east and west were indeed wicked witches, but now that you have killed one of them, there is but one wicked witch in all the land of Oz, the one who lives in the west." "But," said Dorothy, "Aunt Em has told me that the witches were all dead. She is my aunt who lives in Kansas, where I come from." Up here with the slippers. I do not know where Kansas is. In the civilized countries, I believe that there are no witches left, nor wizards. But you see, the land of Oz has never been civilized, for we are cut off from the rest of the world. Therefore, we still have witches and wizards amongst us. "Who are the wizards?" asked Dorothy. "Oz himself is the great wizard," answered the witch. "He is more powerful than all the rest of us. He lives in the City of Emeralds." Dorothy was going to ask another question, but just then the Munchkins gave a loud shout and pointed to where the Wicked Witch had been lying. The feet of the dead witch had disappeared entirely, and nothing was left but the silver shoes. "She was so old," explained the Witch of the North, "that she dried up quickly in the sun. But the silver shoes are yours. There is some charm connected with them. I am anxious to get back to my aunts and uncle, for I am sure they will worry about me. Can you help me find my way?" The Munchkins and the witch looked at one another and then shook their heads. "The North is my home," said the old lady, "and at its edge is the great desert that surrounds this land of Oz. You must go to the City of Emeralds. Perhaps Oz will help you." "Will you go with me?" pleaded the girl. "No, I cannot do that," she replied, "but I will give you my kiss, and no one will dare injure a person who has been kissed by the Witch of the North." Where her lips touched the girl, they left a round, shining mark. "The road to the City of Emeralds is paved with yellow brick," said the witch, "so you cannot miss it." The witch gave Dorothy a friendly little nod, whirled on her heel, and disappeared. So here we have the yellow brick road. "Come along, Toto," Dorothy said. "We will go to the Emerald City and ask the Great Oz how to get back to Kansas again." So here we have There were several roads nearby, but it did not take her long to find the one paved with yellow brick. She was surprised as she walked along to see how pretty the country was about her. There were neat fences at the sides of the road, painted a dainty blue color. The houses were odd-looking dwellings, for each was round with a big dome for a roof. All were painted blue, for in this country of the East, blue was the favorite color. When she had gone several miles, she thought she would stop to rest. Not far away, she saw a scarecrow placed high on a pole to keep the birds from the ripe corn. While Dorothy was looking into the painted face of the scarecrow, she was surprised to see one of the eyes slowly wink at her. "I'm not feeling well," said the scarecrow, "for it is very tedious being perched up here night and day to scare away crows." "Can't you get down?" asked Dorothy. "No, for this pole is stuck up my back. If you will please take away the pole, I shall be greatly obliged to you." Dorothy reached up both arms and lifted the figure off the pole. "Thank you very much," said the scarecrow. "I feel like a new man." "My name is Dorothy," said the girl, "and I'm going to the Emerald City to ask the Great Oz to send me back to Kansas." "Do you think if I go to the Emerald City with you that the Great Oz would give me some brains?" "I cannot tell," she returned, "but you may come with me if you like." Okay. And here we have a field of flowers. There's going to be some more pop-ups there. So here it says, toward the evening they came to a great forest. It was almost dark, but the travelers did not stop and went on into the forest. Soon after, the scarecrow stopped. "I see a little cottage at the right of us," he said. "Shall we go there?" "Yes, indeed," answered the child. "I am all tired out." When Dorothy awoke, they left the cottage and walked through the trees until they found a spring of water where Dorothy drank. When she finished and was about to go back to the road of yellow brick, she was startled to hear a deep groan nearby. Tin Man pops out. See the Tin Man there. It says one of the trees had been partly chopped through, and standing beside it was a man made entirely of tin. He stood perfectly motionless, as if he could not stir at all. "What can I do for you?" she inquired softly. "Get an oil can and oil my joints," he answered. Dorothy found the oil can and oiled them. The Tin Woodman gave a sigh of satisfaction and lowered his axe. "I might have stood there always if you had not come along," he said. "How did you happen to be here?" "We are on our way to the Emerald City to see the Great Oz," she answered. "I want him to send me back to Kansas, and the Scarecrow wants him to put a few brains into his head," she replied. The Tin Woodman appeared to think deeply for a moment. "Do you suppose Oz could give me a heart?" "Why, I guess so," Dorothy answered. "It would be as easy as to give the Scarecrow brains." "I shall take the heart," returned the Tin Woodman. "No one can love who has not a heart, and so I am resolved to ask Oz to give me one." The next page here. We've got another character. And we know who this is. The road was still paved with yellow brick, but these were much covered by dried branches and dead leaves. The walking was not at all good. "How long will it be," the child asked of the Tin Woodman, "before we are out of the forest?" "I cannot tell," was the answer. Just as he spoke, there came from the forest a terrible roar, and the next moment a great lion bounded into the road. Little Toto ran barking toward the lion. The great beast opened his mouth to bite the dog, when Dorothy rushed forward and slapped the lion upon his nose as hard as she could. "Don't you dare to bite Toto. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. A big beast like you to bite a poor little dog. You are nothing but a big coward." "I know it," said the lion, hanging his head in shame. "No one would think of biting such a little thing except a coward like me." "But that isn't right. The king of beasts shouldn't be a coward," said the Scarecrow. "Have you any brains?" "I suppose so. I've never looked to see," replied the lion. "I'm going to the Great Oz to ask him to give me some," remarked the Scarecrow. "Then if you don't mind, I'll go with you," said the lion, "for my life is simply unbearable without a bit of courage." They walked along, listening to the singing of the birds and looking at the lovely flowers, which now became so thick that the ground was carpeted with them. There were great clusters of scarlet poppies, which were so brilliant in color they almost dazzled. They now came upon more and more of the big scarlet poppies, and soon found themselves in the midst of a great meadow of poppies. It is well known that when there are many of these flowers together, their odor is so powerful that anyone who breathes it falls asleep. If the sleeper is not carried away, he sleeps on forever. But Dorothy did not know this, so presently her eyes grew heavy, and she felt she must sit down to rest and sleep. Her eyes closed in spite of herself, and she fell fast asleep. "What shall we do?" asked the Tin Woodman. "If we leave her here, she will die," said the lion. "I myself can scarcely keep my eyes open, and the dog is asleep already." But the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman, not being made of flesh, were not troubled by the scent of the flowers. "Run fast," said the Scarecrow to the Lion. "If you should fall asleep, you are too big to be carried." And here we have another pop-up. You can see them in the field of flowers. It says, "They picked up Toto and put the dog in Dorothy's lap. They carried the sleeping girl far enough from the poppy field to prevent her breathing any more of the flowers, and waited for the fresh breeze to waken her. Dorothy woke from her long sleep and opened her eyes. She was greatly astonished to find herself lying upon the grass. We must journey on until we find the road of yellow brick again, and then we can keep on to the Emerald City," she said. So they all started upon the journey, and it was not long before they reached the road of yellow brick. Once more they could see fences built beside the road, but these were painted green. The land of Oz. Beautiful. So, down here, let's see, it says, "Spectacles for you." Let's see here. There's a pair of glasses that pop out. You can see that there. And you can wear them if you'd like. And then over here, some more pop up there. So down here, it says, "This must be the land of Oz," said Dorothy, "and we are surely getting near the Emerald City." They soon saw a beautiful green glow in the sky just before them. Yet it was afternoon before they came to the great wall that surrounded the city. Let's see what is inside here. Another pop-up. Okay. That looks like the entrance. There. So let's read. It says, "In front of them was a big gate. They all passed through, and before them stood a little man clothed in all green. 'What do you wish in the Emerald City?' he asked. 'We came here to see the great Oz,' said Dorothy. 'It has been many years since anyone asked me to see Oz,' he said, shaking his head. 'But it is not a foolish errand,' replied the Scarecrow. 'We have been told that Oz is a good wizard.' "So he is," said the man. "I am the guardian of the gates, and since you demand to see the great Oz, I must take you to his palace. But first you must put on the spectacles. If you did not wear spectacles, the brightness and glory of the Emerald City would blind you." The guardian of the gates led them through the streets until they came to the Palace of Oz. They passed through the palace gates. First, they came to a great hall. As Dorothy entered, a bell rang. She opened a little door and found herself in a wonderful place. Pop-up comes here. Okay. Now this looks like the Wicked Witch in the pop-up. Okay. And here it says, "What interested Dorothy most was the big throne in the middle of the room. In the center of the chair was an enormous head without body to support it. 'I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you, and why do you seek me?' 'I am Dorothy, the small and meek. I have come for your help.' Then the voice said, 'Where did you get those silver shoes?' 'I got them from the Wicked Witch of the East when my house fell on her.' Then Oz asked, 'What do you wish me to do?' 'Send me back to Kansas, where my Aunt Em and Uncle Henry are,' she answered earnestly. 'What must I do?' 'Kill the Wicked Witch of the West,' answered Oz. 'But I cannot,' exclaimed Dorothy. 'I have never killed anything willingly. How could I kill the Wicked Witch?' 'I do not know, and do not ask to see me again until you have done your task.' Sorrowfully, Dorothy left the throne room and went back to where the lion, scarecrow, and tin woodman were waiting. 'There is no hope for me,' she said sadly. Her friends were sorry, but could do nothing to help her. Let's see. There's a lot of pop-ups there. Okay. Here it says, "The scarecrow was admitted to the throne room where he saw sitting in the throne a lovely lady. 'I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you, and why do you seek me?' 'I am only a scarecrow. I come to you praying that you will put brains in my head instead of straw. If you will kill for me the Wicked Witch of the West, I will bestow upon you such good brains that you will be the wisest man in Oz. Until she is dead, I will not grant your wish.' The scarecrow went sorrowfully back to his friends." Let's see what's next. Okay. That's another pop-up. I can see that. When the Tin Woodman entered the great throne room, Oz had taken the shape of a great beast. I am Oz, the great and terrible, spake the beast, in a voice that was one great roar. Who are you, and why do you seek me? I am a woodman and made of tin. I pray you to give me a heart that I may be as other men are. Help Dorothy to kill the wicked witch of the west, replied the beast. So the Tin Woodman was forced to return to his friends. Last one here. This is what the next pop-up looks like. It's like a fire. The lion at once passed through the door and saw that before the throne was a ball of fire, so fierce and glowing he could scarcely bear to gaze upon it. Then a low, quiet voice came from the ball of fire. I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you, and why do you seek me? And the lion answered, I am a cowardly lion, afraid of everything. I come to you to beg that you give me courage. Bring me proof that the wicked witch is dead, and that moment I will give you courage. Okay, there's no pop-up in this one. The lion was glad to find his friends waiting for him. What shall we do? Asked Dorothy sadly. There's only one thing we can do, returned the lion, and that is to seek out the wicked witch and destroy her. I suppose we must try it, but I'm sure I do not want to kill anybody, even to see Aunt Em again. Therefore, it was decided to start upon their journey the next morning. They went to bed early and slept soundly until daylight. The guardian of the gates politely opened the gate for our friends. Which road leads to the Wicked Witch of the West? Asked Dorothy. There is no road, answered the guardian. No one ever wishes to go that way. They bade him goodbye and turned toward the west. Turn this around for you. Looks like the witch is home. Here it says, now the Wicked Witch of the West had but one eye, yet that was as powerful as a telescope and could see everywhere. Pop up there. It says, she saw Dorothy with her friends all about her. They were a long distance off, but the Wicked Witch was angry to find them in her country. There was in her cupboard a golden cap. Whoever owned it could call upon the winged monkeys, who would obey any order given. So the Wicked Witch took the golden cap and placed it upon her head. The charm began to work. The sky darkened, and there was a rushing of many wings. The sun came out of the dark sky to show the Wicked Witch surrounded by a crowd of monkeys. Destroy them all, said the Wicked Witch. The winged monkeys flew away to the place where Dorothy and her friends were walking. Some of the monkeys seized the Tin Woodman, who fell a great distance to the rocks, where he lay battered and dented. The monkeys caught the scarecrow and pulled all the straw out of his clothes and head. The remaining monkeys threw pieces of rope around the lion until he was unable to struggle in any way. They lifted him up and flew away to the witch's castle. But Dorothy they did not harm at all. The leader flew up to her, but he saw the mark of the good witch's kiss upon her forehead. Carefully and gently they lifted Dorothy and carried her swiftly until they came to the castle. There. Looks like Toto, maybe? The Wicked Witch was worried when she saw the mark on Dorothy's forehead. She looked down at Dorothy's feet, and seeing the silver shoes began to tremble with fear, for she knew what a powerful charm belonged to them. The Wicked Witch thought, I can still make her my slave, for she does not know how to use her power. Then she said to Dorothy, Come with me, and see that you mind everything I tell you, for if you do not, I will make an end of you, as I did the Tin Woodman and the Scarecrow. Dorothy followed her until they came to the kitchen, where the witch bade her clean the pots and kettles and sweep the floor and keep the fire fed with wood. Dorothy tried to plan some way to escape, but could find no way to get out of the castle, for it was constantly guarded by the yellow Winkies, who were slaves of the Wicked Witch. Now the Wicked Witch had a great longing to have the silver shoes. They would give her more power. But the child never took them off, except when she took a bath. The witch was too much afraid of the water, so she never came near when Dorothy was bathing. But the wicked creature was cunning. She placed a bar of iron in the middle of the floor and then made the iron invisible. Dorothy stumbled over the bar and one of the silver shoes came off. The witch snatched it away. And the witch. Okay. Here. The little girl grew angry and said to the witch, "Give me back my shoe." "I shall keep it," said the witch, laughing at her, "and someday I shall get the other one from you too." This made Dorothy so angry that she picked up the bucket of water that stood near and dashed it over the witch. Instantly the wicked woman gave a loud cry of fear. "See what you have done," she screamed. "In a minute I shall melt away." "I'm very sorry indeed," said Dorothy, who was truly frightened to see the witch actually melting away like brown sugar before her eyes. The witch fell down in a brown, melted, shapeless mass and began to spread over the kitchen floor. Dorothy drew another bucket of water and threw it over the mess, then swept it all out the door. The Cowardly Lion was much pleased to hear that the Wicked Witch had been melted, and Dorothy at once unlocked the gate of his prison and set him free. There was great rejoicing among the yellow Winkies, for they had been made to work hard for the wicked witch who had treated them with great cruelty. "If our friends the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman were only with us," said the Lion. "Don't you suppose we could rescue them?" asked the girl anxiously. They called the yellow Winkies and asked them if they would help to rescue their friends. The Winkies said they would do all in their power for Dorothy, who had set them free. They traveled that day until they came to the rocky plain where the Tin Woodman lay, and carried him back to the yellow castle. They set to work hammering and twisting and bending and soldering and polishing until he worked as well as ever. See in the pop-up some tools. And there we see some more flowers. "If we only had the Scarecrow with us again," said the Tin Woodman. "We must try to find him," said the girl. She called the Winkies, and they walked all that day until they came to the Scarecrow's clothes. Dorothy picked them up and had the Winkies carry them back to the castle, where they were stuffed with clean straw, and behold, here was the Scarecrow as good as ever. Now they were reunited. Dorothy and her friends spent a few happy days at the Yellow Castle, but one day the girl thought of Aunt Em and said, "We must go back to Oz and claim his promise." This they decided to do. They all started for Emerald City, and the Winkies gave them 3 cheers and many good wishes to carry with them. There was no road, not even a pathway, between the castle of the Wicked Witch and Emerald City. The witch had sent the winged monkeys to bring them to her. It was much harder to find their way back through the fields of buttercups and daisies. They knew, of course, they must go straight east toward the rising sun, and they started off in the right way. That's beautiful. So it says, "The 4 travelers walked up to the great gate of the Emerald City. When the people heard they had melted the Wicked Witch of the West, they all gathered around and followed the travelers to the Palace of Oz." It's beautiful. And here you see that pop up there. They thought the great wizard would send for them at once, but he did not. The waiting was tiresome and wearing. Promptly at 9 o'clock the next morning, they all went into the throne room of the great Oz. Presently they heard a voice, and it said solemnly, "I am Oz, the great and terrible. Why do you seek me?" "We have come to claim our promise, O Oz." "What promise?" asked Oz. "You promised to send me back to Kansas when the Wicked Witch was destroyed," said the girl. "Is the Wicked Witch really destroyed?" asked the voice, and Dorothy thought it trembled a little. "Yes," she answered. "Dear me," said the voice, "how sudden! Well, come to me tomorrow, for I must have time to think it over." "You've had plenty of time already," said the Tin Woodman angrily. "You must keep your promises to us," exclaimed Dorothy. The lion gave a large, loud roar, which was so fierce that Toto jumped in alarm and tipped over the screen that stood in a corner. As it fell with a crash, they saw, standing in just the spot the screen had hidden, a little old man. The Tin Woodman rushed toward the little man and cried out, "Who are you?" "I am Oz, the Great and Terrible," said the little man in a trembling voice. "I'm just a common man." "You're more than that," said the Scarecrow in a grieved tone. "You're a humbug." "But I don't understand," said Dorothy in bewilderment. "How was it that you appeared to me as a great head?" "That was one of my tricks," answered Oz. "Sit down, please, and I will tell you my story. I was born in Omaha." See, there's the basket of the hot air balloon. "Why, that isn't very far from Kansas," cried Dorothy. "I became a balloonist, a man who goes up in a balloon on circus day. One day I went up in a balloon and the ropes got twisted so that I couldn't come down again. It went way above the clouds, many, many miles away. I awoke and found the balloon floating over a beautiful country in the midst of a strange people who thought I was a great wizard." "I think you are a very bad man," said Dorothy. "Oh no, my dear, I'm a very good man, but I'm a very bad wizard. The witches of the East and West were terribly wicked. And had they not thought I was more powerful than they themselves, they would surely have destroyed me. So you can imagine how pleased I was when I heard your house had fallen on the Wicked Witch of the East. When you came to me, I was willing to promise anything if you would only do away with the other witch. But now that you have melted her, I'm ashamed to say that I cannot keep my promises." "Can't you give me brains?" asked the Scarecrow. "You don't need them. You're learning something every day. Experience is the only thing that brings knowledge." "That may be true," said the Scarecrow, "but I shall be very unhappy unless you give me brains." "But how about my courage?" asked the Lion anxiously. "You have plenty of courage, I'm sure," answered Oz. "All you need is confidence in yourself." "Perhaps I have, but I'm scared just the same," said the Lion. "I shall be very unhappy unless you give me the sort of courage that makes one forget that he is afraid." "How about my heart?" asked the Tin Woodman. "Why, as for that," answered Oz, I think you are wrong to want a heart. It makes most people unhappy." "That must be a matter of opinion," said the Tin Woodman. "For my part, I will bear all the unhappiness without a murmur if you will give me a heart." "And now," said Dorothy, "how am I to get back to Kansas?" "Very well," answered Oz meekly. "Come back tomorrow." Next morning, the Scarecrow went in and found the little man sitting by the window. "I have come for my brains," remarked the Scarecrow, a little uneasily. "You are quite welcome to take my head off, as long as it will be a better one when you put it on again." So the wizard unfastened his head and emptied out the straw. Then he took a great measure of bran and filled the Scarecrow's head. When he fastened the Scarecrow's head on his body again, he said to him, "Hereafter you will be a new man, for I have given you a lot of brand new brains." The woodman entered and said, "I have come for my heart." So the wizard cut a small square hole in the left side of the Tin Woodman's breast. Then, going to a chest of drawers, he took out a pretty heart made entirely of silk and stuffed with sawdust. He put the heart in the woodman's breast and replaced the square of tin. "There," said he, "now you have a heart that any man might be proud of." The lion now walked to the throne room and knocked at the door. "I have come for my courage." "Very well," answered the little man. He went to a cupboard and took down a green bottle, the contents of which he poured into a dish. "Drink." "What is it?" asked the lion. "Well," answered Oz, "if it were inside of you, it would be courage. Courage is always inside one, so that this really cannot be called courage until you have swallowed it." The lion drank till the dish was empty. "How do you feel now?" asked Oz. "Full of courage," replied the lion, who went joyfully back to his friends to tell them of his good fortune. Thus each of the little party was satisfied except Dorothy, who longed more than ever to get back to Kansas. To her joy, Oz sent for her, and when she entered the throne room, he said, "I think I have found a way to get you out of this country." "How?" asked Dorothy. "In a balloon," said Oz. It took 3 days to sew together a big bag of green silk, more than 20 feet long. Oz ordered the balloon carried out in front of the palace. The Tin Woodman had chopped a big pile of wood. He made a fire of it, and Oz held the bottom of the balloon over the fire so the hot air that arose from it would be caught in the silken bag. Gradually the balloon swelled out and rose into the air until finally the basket just touched the ground. Then Oz got into the basket and said to all the people, "I'm now going away to make a visit. While I'm gone, the Scarecrow will rule. Obey him as you would me." The balloon was by this time tugging hard at the rope that held it to the ground. "Come, Dorothy," cried the wizard. "Hurry up, or the balloon will fly away." "I can't find Toto anywhere," replied Dorothy. Toto had run into the crowd. Dorothy at last found him and ran toward the balloon. Oz was holding out his hands to help her into the basket when crack went the ropes, and the balloon rose into the air without her. "Come back," she screamed. "I can't come back, my dear," called Oz. "Goodbye." And that was the last any of them ever saw Oz. Dorothy wept bitterly at the passing of her hope to get home to Kansas again. "I don't want to live here," cried Dorothy. "Well then, what can be done?" inquired the woodman. "Is there no one who can help me?" asked Dorothy. "Glinda, the Witch of the South. She is the most powerful of all the witches and rules over the Quadlings. Her castle stands on the edge of the desert, so she may know a way to cross it." The Scarecrow said, "It seems that the best thing Dorothy can do is to travel to the land of the South and ask Glinda to help her." "I shall go," declared the lion. "Dorothy will need someone to protect her." "That is true," agreed the woodman. "I also will go with her to the land of the South." "When shall we start?" asked the Scarecrow. "Are you going?" they asked in surprise. "Certainly. If it wasn't for Dorothy, I should never have had brains. My good luck is due to her, and I shall never leave her until she starts back to Kansas for good and all." And here we have the last page. Pop up, we see Dorothy. The country of the Quadlings seemed rich and happy. The fences and houses and bridges were all painted bright red, just as they had been painted yellow in the country of the Winkies and blue in the country of the Munchkins. The Quadlings themselves, who were short and fat and looked chubby and good-natured, were dressed all in red. The four travelers walked by fields and across pretty bridges until they saw before them a beautiful castle. They told who they were, and after a few moments, Dorothy and the others were admitted at once. The witch Glinda sat upon a throne of rubies. Her hair was a rich red color, and her dress was pure white. "What can I do for you, my child?" she asked. Dorothy told the witch all her story, how the cyclone had brought her to the land of Oz, how she had found her companions, and of the wonderful adventures they had met with. "My greatest wish now," she added, "is to get back to Kansas." Up here on this page here. Glinda leaned forward. "Bless your dear heart," she said. "Your silver shoes will carry you over the desert. All you have to do is knock the heels together 3 times and command the shoes to carry you wherever you wish to go." "If that is so," said the child joyfully, "I will ask them to carry me back to Kansas at once." She threw her arms around the lion's neck and kissed him. Then she kissed the Tin Woodman, who was weeping in a way most dangerous to his joints. She hugged the soft, stuffed body of the scarecrow and found she was crying herself at this sorrowful parting from her loving companions. Dorothy took Toto up solemnly in her arms, and having said one last goodbye, she clapped the heels of her shoes together 3 times, saying, "Take me home to Aunt Em." And here we have the final pop-up. And we can see it's Dorothy hugging Aunt Em. And it says, Aunt Em had just come out of the house when she looked up and saw Dorothy running toward her. "My darling child," she cried, folding the little girl in her arms. "Where in the world did you come from?" "From the land of Oz," said Dorothy. "And, oh, Aunt Em, I'm so glad to be at home again." That's the end. Okay. Well, that was a very interesting book that I found. Well, I do hope that you enjoyed having a look at this with me and reading the story of the Wizard of Oz. Well, thank you so much for watching.